Do you ever feel like you're the only one reading your school newsletter? Well, S'more is here to help you change that. Built for educators, S'more gives you hundreds of easy to use templates to craft newsletters your community will love and that they'll actually read. You can add videos, images, polls, and more. Stop guessing about what content your community wants to read. Use S'more's analytics to see who opens your emails and which links are getting clicked. And did I mention, S'more lets you translate your newsletter into more than 100 different languages. I'm telling you, this is the platform that you want to use. Sign up now and take $50 off your first year of your S'more plan. Make your newsletters easier and more engaging at s'more.com/teachbetter. Again, that's s'more.com/teachbetter. All right, everybody, welcome into episode 172 of the Leaning into Leadership podcast. My boys, Dom and Todd are back. We did not have an opportunity last month to record a midweek conversation, but this month we're making it happen. You know, I think that's just part of the principal life, right? Dom and Todd are both just insanely busy guys. Not that I'm sitting around eating bonbons, but we just could not make our schedules jive. So we have today, we've got some opportunity to sit down. And honestly, guys, we're going to dive in today into a bunch of different questions that when you are late October and you are a school leader, these are the questions that you're probably asking or that you would love to have answers to, and you haven't even had time to come up for air to ask the questions. So before we get into all of that stuff, Dom, Todd, so good to see you, my friends. Thanks for jumping back into the Leaning into Leadership podcast.
Good to see you, DP. Good to see you, Dom. Ready for tonight?
It's good to see you guys. We Darrin, like you said, it's been super busy. I'm actually, if people can't hear me or think I'm a little distorted, I'm at the Sanies conference. I'm in a hotel right now, but we had to make it happen. I'll do anything I can to jump on and talk to my two buddies over here. So I'm excited.
And it's snowing, right? It's snowing in New York.
I literally ran back from the conference center to the hotel room in snow. I had to call my daughter up, and I'm like, Maria, she's getting ready for bed. I go, it's snowing. She goes, it is? She runs to her window. I hear my wife say, not here, where daddy is.
Right, yeah.
90 degrees in San Antonio today.
Oh my goodness. Yeah, no thanks. I'll pass on that. We had some nice 60-degree weather. We still have a couple more 80-degree days coming our way here in Omaha. And I know, Dom, you're in Lake Placid, so it's not like you're out on Long Island getting snow right now. You're up in Lake Placid, so a little bit different. I did see my home state, Wyoming, and also in Colorado, where I used to be a superintendent. They have just been getting pounded with the snow up in the mountains. And, I guess, with all the wildfires and water shortages and that kind of stuff we've been dealing with across the West, I will say, bring on the snow for those areas. I'm not yet ready for it. I am not yet ready for that. So yeah, there we go. Right, guys. So, let's do this, before we dive into questions. Just really quick around the horn. Like, what's something that is like pressing on you, or that you're working on, or that is kind of like, percolating towards the top of your to-do list now that we're here in very late October? And Dom, I'm going to come to you first.
Yeah, so I think for me, it's, last year, for those that follow the podcast and know what's going on, last year we developed our school-wide goals and our mission, and we did that from scratch. So, September was a blur. I think, for us in New York, that's the first month of our school year. September was an absolute blur. October went just as fast. It's hard to believe, but we're heading into Halloween week, which means November is right around the corner. And so the top of my list now is to really dive into some of these goals and trying to make them a reality, or at least take steps to making them a reality. So that's where we are right now. And just looking forward to that and pretty excited about that.
Awesome. Bloomer.
Yeah. We start in August. And so, Dom, we've gone August, September, October, and really, Darrin had a great blog post recently about October and about the difficulties in October. Really, what I'm trying to keep on my to-do list and keep with my team, my leadership team, is, for a cliche, keeping the main thing the main thing. Making sure that we are building time to be in classrooms, because right now the honeymoon's over. We're starting to, people are getting tired. Thanksgiving's real close, but not close enough. And so, like, really making sure these next 19 days, school days, we're in classrooms, we're with kids, and we're doing what we need to do, checking on PLCs and monitoring data, and really helping support teachers wherever we can help and support them, as this is that, for a football analogy, winning those middle eights, winning the second quarter, winning the third quarter, and really trying our best to win those quarters to make sure that we're successful. And so, I typed up my leadership agenda for our meeting on Monday, and really making sure that we're getting back into classrooms, whether it be pairs, walking, whether it be just conversation about what we're seeing and how we can help. Really just keeping the main thing the main thing.
I love that. I think that's such a big deal. I recorded an episode that'll be coming up here in the next, I'm going to say 3 to 4 episodes with a middle school principal in South Carolina, Bentley Lewis. Bentley, if you're listening, and I know you are, shout out to you. And we were talking about, just that exact same thing too, right? And how what she has done with her leadership team to make sure that everybody is getting into the classrooms and keeping that main thing the main thing. And I know, Dom, one of your questions tonight is going to lead us right into that. And man, I'll tell you what, since and I guess I should answer the question, what am I working on right now? It's, for me right now, it is all about getting that online course completed and ready for consumption, because I'll tell you what, I have heard from so many school leaders, not just across the U.S. I've heard from school leaders around the globe saying, Darrin, I can't wait for that course. I can't wait for that course. I can't wait for that course. One of my former students, student athletes, who is a principal in the Phoenix area, reached out, Pep, I need this now. Like, get this course done. I just really need that. And the number one thing that I hear from all of them is, how do I keep the main thing the main thing? I think everybody is struggling with, man, I need to do this. I've got this. The district office asked for this. I got these 5 people who have a crisis. I got these parents. I got these kids. I got that, right? And everybody's trying to throw on the cape and trying to be the superhero instead of just go focus on the main thing. So I love, Todd, that you talked about that. And Dom, I know that's where your question's going to go. So let's just go right at that one. We're going to go at your first question. Todd and I'll do our best to answer it and share some insights, hopefully, to help people with this particular topic. So go for it.
All right. So here it is. So, Darrin, I always think of your second book when you talk about your instructional leadership. So part of my goal this year is to be more of an instructional leader, not saying that I was not in the past. But I wanted to get into classrooms. I want to be with the teachers. I want to coach them. I want to work with them. So here's the question I have for you. I was sitting at the Sainies conference today, and there was a presenter talking about how they shadow students as part of their instructional leadership practice. And they said that the reason why they shadow the students mostly in September and October is because they want to be able to now modify or support the teacher moving forward through the year. Like I said before, September and October definitely got away from me, as it does most administrators. So my question is going in and being that instructional leader and supporting the teachers in November, December, and January too late? And how do you kind of keep the focus to make sure that you get into the classrooms to be there to then coach?
Yeah, I love that. Todd, I'll go ahead and take that one first if you're okay with that.
Yes, sir.
I would say 2 things on that. One, I did something like that too. Shadowing a student, I think, is just such a really, really cool thing. I never specifically said, okay, I'm going to shadow a student. I did instead what I called out of office days. And so it was, I am absolutely not available. I will be in classrooms the entire day, period. And I went in, though, to those classrooms specifically to be there through the eyes of a student. Not I'm here to, be the evaluative, individual as the principal or even as the coaching individual. I want to try and be here as a student. I want to try and think like a student, like what am I supposed to do here today? What am I supposed to learn today? What am I supposed to, walk out the door with? And it's a challenging thing. I mean, it really, really is. I mean, for principals to set aside, their pieces and to try and take that on. So one, I love that you mentioned the shadow a student thing. Folks, if you can do it, find a way to go make it happen. That or the out of office day. And I always blogged about my out of office day. When it was over, I sat down and I wrote a lengthy blog about here's what I took away from the day, and I shared it with my staff before I made the blog public, so that they had a chance to to really kind of see it. The second thing I would tell you is November too late? No, it's not. It's never too late. Well, May is probably too late to start being the instructional leader. I mean, let's be honest, right? But excuse me, if you have been really slogged down, these first couple of months, especially if you're a new administrator, right? I mean, and even in your case, Dom, you're year 2 in that building. There's still so much that happens on the operational management side that it is tough to get into the classrooms, and it's tough to lean into being that instructional leader. So no, it's never too late. And the other thing that I'll kind of build on this with is you don't have to go from 0 to 100. You can go from 0 to 20, so instead of I haven't been there at all, just start ramping it up, start making it happen, go from I can get into any classrooms to I got into 3 today, or I got into 10 this week, or whatever the number is, right? You need to lean into that. And it's also too, you mentioned it as instructional leadership. And I'm going to, this is where I'll finish my answer, and hopefully, Bloomer will just run with this. It's not just about being in the classrooms. It's about being in the PLCs. It's about being in professional development. It's about being in curriculum adoptions. All of that stuff is instructional leadership.
Yeah, 100%. Great things. I've stolen your idea. Monday's my day out of the office. And so I just start there. Monday, I block off my day. That is my day to go from there. I think as leaders, we need to talk in our leadership meetings with our assistant principals about what does that look like and how are we accomplishing that goal. So we do office days at Churchill High School for administrators. And essentially, Dominic, you would have 3 periods in the morning to do classroom observations, and all the other assistant principals would pick up discipline. And then in the afternoon, you do student attendance or conferences. And the next week we would flip. So I build time into the day to do that. But it is so important to be in those PLC meetings when your PLC is meeting. Algebra 1 is an area of focus for us, as it is for a lot of places across the state of Texas. I need to be there to be able to help and support. I'm not driving the discussions. I'm not really adding a whole heck of a lot, because they are the math specialists in what they need. What we're really looking at when we get in there as instructional leaders is answering those questions. What are we doing if the kid already knows the information? And then what do we do if the kid doesn't know the information? And those discussions need to happen. And another way we can be an instructional leader is when we take these common assessments or district created common assessments that we have, is analyzing the data with the team to be able to say, Dominic, I noticed you knocked it out of the park. Darrin, you were right there, but Bloomer, you know what? You're 30 points behind them. And then being vulnerable enough to have those conversations to say, what is going on with that? Then going back to the PLC to say, okay, let's go back and let's talk about best practices. And let's talk about, Dom, what are you doing? And then Darrin, what are you doing to get them there? And then Todd, what are you going to do when you go back there? Because you've got to do more. So I definitely think when we're sitting there, when talking about getting in classrooms, Darrin, you do a great job of communicating to everybody that we got to use our secretary to be able to drive our calendar. And if we don't calendar it, it doesn't happen. And you're great about putting stuff on there, not only about getting in classrooms, but also about like culture and like balcony leadership and those kind of things, which I have adopted. And you just put 20 minutes on it. And my trick is I put a former friend that I grew up with in New York, his name on for like an hour, Derek DeWind. And so Derek, I don't know if you're listening or not, Derek, but on my calendar, your name is on there multiple times. And that just means get out of the classroom and get out of the office and go see the campus. sit where you need to sit, talk to people, and kind of go from there. And a lot of times that means getting into classrooms for what you have. So calendar it, sit with your teachers, support your teachers any way, shape, or form, get into PLCs, but then get with your leadership team to say stuff like, okay, Dom, when are you getting out? What, I noticed, you don't have as many walks as some of the others do. What do you need some help or assistance? Not trying to oversee anybody, but just, I can cover your lunch duty if you want to go see 3 teachers. I'd much rather do that as the principal. So I think it's just ongoing conversation, but we always have to talk instruction as when we're on a leadership team or in a leadership meeting, so that stays the main thing, staying the main thing.
Yeah, no, I love that. I think that's awesome. Very good. Very good. Okay, let's go to Todd, your first question. Let's jump right in. Let's see what you got.
As this episode is dropping at the very end of October, Darrin, you've done a lot of talk about October being a very, very difficult month. Shocktober, whatever you want to call it, 31 days, ends with Halloween. For us in the great state of Texas, we've gone to school. We got there August 5th. We're now 3 months into the school year, and everything's just like we're tired. So I'm going to ask Dom this question to kind of start, and then Darrin, I'll ask you to follow up with it. But what are you doing on your campus right now? A, to keep morale, and B, to keep the main thing, and then C, also to keep the initiatives that we've started the season with or the year with, and we were so fired up about them. But what are we doing to keep that going? Because right now is the time where someone just says, forget it, I'm just going to close the door and just do what I need to do. So Dom, what are you doing in Sayville that's keeping, the momentum going, the morale of teachers high, and listening to students? Well, you just kind of go from there. Put you on the spot.
I think for me, it's about being intentional at the very beginning of the school year, right? So I believe when I started at the beginning of the school year, because we did such an in-depth overview last year of this is our goals, let's listen to our stakeholders, let's create them. This year, I made a very valid point to say at the start of the year, this is what we're doing. Now we're focusing on these goals. There's not going to be anything new. We're just going to look at what we have and we're going to commit to that. And the other thing I think is I'm continuing to keep teachers' voice a priority. And I think that's what's keeping the morale up, is that as I go into classrooms, as I do my rounds, as we have our PLCs and our faculty meetings and whatever we're doing, I'm A, asking them for their feedback, B, reminding them that it's related to the goals that we created, and C, just having a little bit of fun. That's the other big piece of it. Halloween, I'm going dressed up as Mario. My AP is going to be Luigi. We're going to have a blast, that to me, that's a fun day. And in my calendar, it's a fun day. So that's what we're doing at Lincoln Avenue Elementary.
Yeah,
what do you think, DP?
I'll kind of jump in on that too. And I'll share what I've seen from a few really, really good principals around the country. I was mentioning Bentley Lewis, having a conversation with her, keeping the leadership team accountable for getting into the classrooms. They have a scoreboard in her office, and they are all insanely competitive. And so, when I'm coming in and I'm marking my 5, and Dom's sitting there with none, there's a little bit of a scoreboard, bro. Come on, let's go. Right. I think that's a really, really powerful thing. A principal that I had the honor of working with and supporting in Northwest Arizona. Her name is Jen. Jen puts exactly what she's working on a whiteboard, and it goes right in her window facing into the main office. So there is no question about this is where Jen's priorities are. And what I love about that, there were a couple of times that, I'm at the school, and there were even some things where people are like, hey, I know, once I was in the office and she wasn't there, and they're like, hey, we know where she is because it says right there on the board, she's focused on, in this case, it was, being in classrooms with her early career leader or her early career teachers. So I think if you make it visible, I think if you have some tangible way that increases the accountability, Todd, you mentioned the calendar. To me, the calendar is a great way. I just listened to a new book on Audible the last couple of days on time blocking. I'm a big fan of time blocking, but I'm always looking for new, techniques and tricks to, really, own that time. Whatever you do, if you do something that makes it visible, makes other people aware of what your priorities are, it just amps up the accountability so much. And I think that's a really, really powerful way to make sure the main thing stays the main thing.
Good answer, boys. Good answer.
Yeah, there we go. There we go. My turn to ask a question. And so here's one I'm really curious to hear both of you go at. You guys have both heard me say it. Everybody that I've ever supported in a leadership role has heard me say it. It's not the kids. It's the adults. That's who's going to get you. It's the behaviors and the decisions that adults make that ultimately lead to the challenges that ultimately are the time bandits that pull you guys away, right? So this is the time of year when you might be starting to have some of those hard conversations. And I'm not talking about the, hey, I'm not renewing your contract conversation. It's a little early in the year for that. I mean, I guess you could maybe have that conversation now, but that's probably not where you're going to go. But the hard conversations right now are the directives. The improvement must happen. These behaviors must cease. And let's be honest, we don't get a lot of practice with those until we're in the moment. And there's certainly not any training, or there's a little bit of training out there, but not a lot of people get a lot of training on how to have the hard conversation. So Todd, I'm going to go to you first, and let's just real quickly share one or two pieces of insight. How do you have those conversations in October and November?
If you're not in a classroom, you can't have them. So let's just start there and say, if we're not, you can't have that conversation from your office. You got to be in classrooms. Second of all, you got to have data and you got to have facts. And I think at the end of the day, every kid that goes to your campus deserves the best education possible. And if that is not occurring, then it is our job to ensure it occurs. I had 5 children that went to Churchill. Any of them could land anywhere. I knew they'd get a good education. We need to make sure that we have the best teachers. So I think if we're not seeing that, we got to have data to back it up. We got to have numerous observations to back it up. And then we got to put a plan in place to be able to support them. Because if we talk about being a family, if someone's struggling, we're going to do something to be able to help and support them. So I'd say easy answer, quick answer. It starts with keeping the main thing. And if this is a veteran teacher or a new teacher, being in classrooms, making sure you can support them, and then being very specific, like not saying, Darrin, you're not doing a good job. Here's the areas where you need to do a better job. Or here's what I noticed. Could be data from assessments. It could be stuff that we've watched. And then it's conversations. And you're not afraid to have those conversations, and they're not personal. They are conversations that you have in a good tone. They're private conversations, but there's also an expectation of every kid deserves the best. And right now we're not getting the best. And what are we going to be able to do? And how do we build that plan to get them successful? It's not a lot of fun either to have those, but the kids deserve it. Like when you look at it from that standpoint, that kid deserves it. And what did John Hattie say? One of the best indicators of student growth or success is a great teacher in every classroom. And that's our job as principals to make sure of that.
Absolutely. Yeah, they don't call them fun conversations. They're called hard conversations for a reason. Yeah, Dom, what do you got?
Yeah, I think, I think Todd, it was like kind of like came in my brain and took it right out. But I was going to say, I have on my desk at work this little like placard that was the motto of the former district I was in New York City, which was always remember to ask, how is this good for children? And I think if you have that in the forefront of your mind all the time with every decision that you make, the conversations, as hard as they are, just happen, right? And it's hard. And I remember as a new assistant principal, 28 years old, I hated having those conversations, and I actually dreaded it. And I give my former principal, John Buffa, a lot of credit. I don't know if he's listening or not, but I remember I was 28 years old. I was in a classroom and I saw something that I didn't like, or, just, it was bad. It was not good for kids. And I remember telling my principal about it, thinking that he was going to say something to the teacher about it. And he says, okay, no, let's call her down and you're going to talk to her. And I remember sitting across from her, and he was in the room. And I remember just beating around the bush like any new admin, like just kind of being like, so, and I went in and this and that. And he literally stops and goes, and? And he just like made me come out and say it. But again, I think it's like having the idea and philosophy of how is this good for children? And if you keep that in your mind when you go into the classrooms and you talk to the teachers, and if you truly make that a priority, those conversations, as bad as they are, become coachable moments, right? And like Darrin, you said, like, we're not talking about the whole, like, we're not renewing your contract. I'm sorry, this is not working. That's the extreme. But right now, if the teachers and the staff know that you are a man that's going to do what you need to do to support the kids, it just makes those conversations happen. And you just have to have it. Like, at some point, as a new administrator, you have to pull the carpet and just have the conversation.
Absolutely. I think I like how you said that right there. And both of you, great answers right there. I think you have to know, this is what's important to me. This is what I have to see. And certainly how is this good for kids has to be one of those driving pieces. And if it's not good for kids, hey, that's part of your job, is to step in and say, all right, look, this has got to change, or somewhere down the road, we are going to be having that conversation where I tell you that, you're going to have to go look for employment somewhere else, because that's my job. Right. So
Darrin,
I really appreciate that stuff.
One of the things I think is super important is this can't be a surprise to people. Like, we've been in classes so much, we've provided so much feedback that, God forbid, if we do get to a non-renewal, this isn't a surprise. This is a handshake, almost to where we say, I wish you the best and good luck. And if we wait till February or March to have those hard conversations, then that's not fair to the teacher or the kids that we've gone with. And so these conversations are occurring in October and November to say, Dom, you got to get better in the class. Like, this is my expectation of you. And when we go into classrooms, every time we're in there, I coach my administrators. We need to leave feedback, good and bad. It doesn't have to be in a formal. It can be on an index card or a sticky note. And that's the dialogue that we're having, because the teachers have to know this is what's important to us. This is what we're looking for. And here's our expectations.
Yeah, listening to you say that makes me think of one of the very, very, very best professional coaches out there. And I'm not a Pittsburgh Steelers fan, but you have to admire Mike Tomlin.
Yep,
and
absolutely.
The entire time he has been the coach, no matter who is on his roster, no matter how banged up or healthy they are, he will say the standard is the standard. And he means it. A lot of people may say it, but he means it. This is where you have to be a part of us, to be a part of who we are. And his job is simply to hold you to the standard. And that's our job as school leaders. So I really, really appreciate that. Dom, let's come back to you with your second question.
All right. So we're getting into November, which means it's the holiday season, right? We have Thanksgiving, and then, any other holidays that come up in December that you may be celebrating. So let's talk a little bit about work-life balance. So my question is, how do we, or what are some strategies we can do to be there for the gingerbread making nights at the school, or the Thanksgiving feast that we have, and then also be there for your child's gingerbread making night, or whatever they may be having at their school or at home? So let's hear it, guys.
Yeah.
I got it.
Go ahead,
I
Todd.
got this one.
Yeah.
I did a terrible job of this as a first-year principal. Like, insert Charles Barkley's terrible voice right there. I did a terrible job of this, because I felt like I needed to be at every school event in sake of everything my kids had. And I took year 2 and on to be able to go from there. So honestly thinking, there are certain things we have to go to as principals. We just have to. There's no ifs, ands, or buts about it, and we go there. But any opportunity we get to be a part of our children's life, we have to take advantage of that, because time stops for no man or woman. Darrin knows this. I know this. We're empty nesters. The kids are in college. They're working. They're probably never going to live in my house again, and I can't get back time that I can't get. So any of my administrators that have to go, no, they don't have to. Any administrator that come to me and says, hey, my kid is in the play, my kid has got a game, it is my job to organize and have somebody else cover so that they can go be a part of that. If that means I got to cover an extra lunch duty, or I got to pick up a volleyball game in the night, I do, because they're going to come back and work 50 times harder for me if I allow that. And I will say this, Dom, the biggest thing that we talk about being a family all the time. Schools are families, family, family, family. And if we don't demonstrate that through action by allowing people to be a part of their family, then we're hypocrites. Now, I tell teachers all the time, if you go home on the weekends and disconnect, great. You still got to do the work. You still got to plan. You still got to be ready for school. But you don't have to work all day Saturday, all day Sunday, all day Monday, all day Tuesday. You don't have to do that. And so I would say, look at your calendar for the month. You know who we have on our campus that has little kids in schools, and say to them, hey, your kid's got a big soccer match tonight. Get out of here at 4:00 so you can be there. Like, we have 3 staff members in our leadership team that have kids that were in a pep rally on Friday. They need to go. I don't go. I'm the principal. I should be there. I don't go because I want them to experience their kids being there. So the balance means I got to use my calendar. I got to prioritize, and we got to cover each other up when we can cover each other up. And as a principal, if that means I got to cover something, then I do.
So I really can't say it any better than Todd did. So I'm going to take it from a little bit different angle. If you are a superintendent, especially if you're a superintendent, but if you're a building level leader, you have to set the tone. You cannot be the person that works 90 hours a week and doesn't communicate to others through your actions the family is important. Because if you do, and I worked under that leader, I worked under 3 different superintendents as a principal, and one of them would send emails at 2:30 in the morning, 3:17 in the morning, 11:45 at night on a Sunday, send text messages in the middle of the night, like if it's snowing or something and we may have a weather event. If you as the leader set the tone that way, you are, no matter what you say to people, you are creating a culture where people think they have to work as hard as you, that they have to do all of this other stuff, right? Like, honestly, working under that individual, I felt like, wow, if we're going to have bad weather, I probably better get up at 2 and check and make sure that, the superintendent hasn't yet sent an email. I did not take good care of myself during that time. So that's the direction I want to answer your question with, is as the leader, think about the tone you set. Think about utilizing simple things like schedule send. Don't send the email at 2:15 in the morning. If you're up and you're doing the email, fine and dandy. Knock yourself out. Hit schedule send for 6:45 or 7 a.m. or something like that, right? Let your people enjoy their life. Don't make them feel like they have to work 24/7. That's what I would say, is you've got to set the conditions up so that they can do exactly what Todd just said.
It may sound corny. But I every email I send, I type on Sunday, goes out Monday at 7:30, delayed delivery, just like what you said. The first paragraph is what I did over the weekend, not school related. Football, food, the weekend, Sunday fun day with my wife. I try to model that. I talk about food a lot. I try to connect with teachers. I want them to understand that this weekend, I didn't work on a whole heck of a lot for school, because I worked on myself and my family. And I want people to be able to do that. And that opening, that lens, allows me to have conversations with people. Because if I talk about going downtown and eating at this burger joint, and Dominic went to the burger joint, next time he sees me, he said, dude, have you tried this burger? Or, you know what, you need to go here. Yep. And then you're building those organic conversations in the hallway about nothing about school, but you're building that culture of family that you want. And so delayed delivery is a godsend. 100%. And don't be afraid to talk about other things besides school.
Absolutely. Awesome stuff. Todd, your second question.
Yeah, and I'd kind of like to just do this, and this came to me this afternoon. I'd like to go around maybe once or twice or 3 times as we go around and say, if you're a new leader and you're stressing over building a culture, or your campus isn't what you want, what's something that just comes to your mind? And maybe I can even jump in as we kind of go around. What's one thing you would do tomorrow to start building toward that culture? And Darrin, I'm going to start with you. So think about, in your mind, a principal first year, maybe 3 months in, maybe a year and 3 months, maybe the culture isn't where they want it to be. Like, what's one thing you would tell that person to do tomorrow to start building on that?
Show up at the front door. just show up at the front door, or find your location. I know for you, it's a certain hallway that you or outdoor space that you're
Yes.
at. Show up at the front door, greet kids, greet families, greet bus drivers. The number one thing that your school needs from you is your face in front of them, not
Yep.
you working on some report in your office.
Facts. Dominic?
Talk to the staff, ask questions, build relationships, kids, teachers, parents, everyone.
We brew a giant pot of coffee every morning outside my office. And anytime somebody comes to get coffee, if I'm in my office, that's my signal to get up and go out there, have another cup of coffee for me, but have a conversation with that teacher. I think food and stuff kind of brings people together when it comes to stuff like that. What's another one, Dominic?
I love it.
Something tomorrow.
Have fun. Have fun and show everyone that you're a human. Dress up on the spirit days and bring your kids to the events. And, like you said, just be a dad. Be a dad and a husband and a person, not just the principal.
Darrin?
I love that. I love that. Be curious. Show up inquisitive. Just ask a lot of questions. So often, especially early career leaders, you think you have to solve everything. No, you don't. Ask good questions because you got smart people around them. And if you ask good questions, they'll probably be able to solve their own problems, which is really your role, right? Like empowering them to take on their own challenges and solve them. So just show up curious. That's what I would say.
Hey, I'll go around one more time because I got one I'd like to add. Anytime you have a difficult conversation, whether it be with a staff member, a parent, your boss, get out, get into a classroom and spend time with kids. Like really ground yourself back in why you're there. Ask questions, as you said, Darrin, be inquisitive there. Ask what's going on. But it also could be ask about fantasy football or ask about what they like about their campus. Just spend time with kids when days are tough. Dominic, one more.
All right, well, I'm going to be talking about it tomorrow, and hopefully people will be reading about it soon in the upcoming book. But a little plug for hashtag leading with swag. I'm going to go with the A, which is acknowledge everyone. Whether it is the clerical staff, the facilities workers, the aides, whoever it is, just give shout outs, give high fives, thank yous, find something positive and blow it up to make people feel special.
That's great. One more, Darrin. Wrap it up.
I'm going to build on Dom's piece right there. One of my favorite things from being a school leader, with our custodial staff, we would get once a month. There were these monster breakfast burritos, and I'm sure I gained probably 15 pounds over the years just from eating these gargantuan breakfast burritos. But about once a month, we would go and get these breakfast burritos, myself, the rest of the leaders, and we would hang out with our daytime custodian and maintenance crew. There's about 6 of them, and just listen to them, eat with them, enjoy spending time with them. And, it lets them know it's acknowledgement, but it's maybe a little bit step further of, look, a lot of what you do is the lifeblood of our school. So know that we value and appreciate you.
That's great. All great advice for anybody in any, I think, area of their career, but definitely if someone's struggling, these are just great tips to be able to go and I think implement tomorrow. I mean, you can go and implement them tomorrow and start working on what the culture that you desire.
That's outstanding. All right, we're going to go around the horn one more time. My final question, and the final question of this week's podcast, is not a school leader related thing specifically, but it's, what is your favorite Halloween related school event, activity, anything like that? I'm going to go to Dominic first because he has the advantage of being in an elementary school. But Dom, what do you got for Halloween?
Yes.
I mean, listen, Halloween it's just so much fun. I mean, the costumes, but one of my favorite things is, and it's a tradition that they had at the school that I'm currently in, far before I even ever got there. But our 3rd, 4th, and 5th graders, right after the Halloween parade, they dance a choreographed dance to Thriller to all the parents that show up for the parade. And it's like straight out of the music video. And like, I saw it last year for the first time and I'm like, this is amazing. Yeah. So I'm so looking forward to that. So a big shout out to our music teacher, Miss Cirillo, for coordinating that. I'm just so excited to see the 3rd through 5th grade Thriller dance.
Love it.
We do a teacher dance to Thriller also at halftime of a football game at the end of the month. So I won't use that as my example, but teachers dance with the dance team, and the dance team does a phenomenal job, and the teachers don't, and that's half the fun of watching us. And normally the principal's at the 50-yard line, and everybody gets to see the horrible moves of the principal, which bring great joy. Something we just started last night, Saturday, was a trunk or treat, and our theater department put it on. And we're hoping to make this a tradition of a safe environment where our kids get to, kind of highlight and showcase some of the cool things that they're doing, from face painting to a semi-scary not as scary haunted house, to activities, just to try to bring little kids together to be able to come up. And so Saturday night was our first trunk or treat. And we're hoping to build upon this and really make it a community event in which, we can highlight some of the cool things we're doing, because ultimately at the end of the day, if I can get those little kids to come up to Churchill, go home happy, and then say, Mom, in 5 years, I'm going to be at Churchill in the theater department or in the choir or in the face painting, like that is a diabolical way, if we talk Halloween, of also making sure that our kids are in our pipeline are saying that's going to be my high school, and getting them on the campus in a cool way, in a safe way, was something that was really nice. And so I did not make it last night. Saturday, I watched the Yankees lose. I'm sorry, Dom, we lost 4-2 in game 2. So I saw my assistant principal today. I was voting, and I said, hey, how was it? She told me all about it. And she said the fire department only had to come one time because we fired off a smoke machine inside a building, and that probably wasn't a good idea. So we won't do that next year. So we already had some good ideas about how to fix it next year. But
there you go.
Really trying to make that a thing that we can do year after year and make it better and better for Halloween.
I love it.
Hey guys, real quick, guys.
Yeah?
Do you think Aaron Judge listens to us, like this podcast? Do you think
he might? He might.
I think he does. Yeah, I think he does.
So yeah. Can we tell him to wake up at the plate a little bit, or?
So I still have great hope and faith in Aaron Judge. Obviously, he's pressing much harder than he should because he realizes the weight of New York is on his shoulders. Yeah. I think he's going to bounce back. Yeah. I really do.
I think
I will never boo Aaron Judge. Ever.
Yeah, I picked him in 6. I still think they're going to win it in 6. I really do. Mm-hmm. So I'll tell you this: my favorite one with Halloween. We started this at the beginning of our the renaissance of our culture with our Jostens Renaissance program, but we started a tradition at the end of every first quarter, which happened to fall right around Halloween, that our first academic pep rally had a Halloween theme to it. And the kids got to wear costumes, and the staff showed up in costume. And every year, our leadership kids were trying to take that rally to the next level. And oh my goodness, we had some unbelievable productions, including one that the principal was dressed as the main character from Saw, and even came out at the end as the main character from Saw in the hospital gown on a tricycle. I mean, like the whole enchilada, right? But you're really blowing the roof off the place, celebrating academic performance, celebrating behaviors, celebrating, attendance, that kind of stuff. And oh my gosh, it became such a massive event at our school. And, kids knew, you weren't getting recognized at that rally if you weren't meeting whatever the criteria was. And they all wanted to make sure they got recognized at that particular rally, because it was always the one that had the best rally t-shirt, and you had to be get recognized in order to get the rally t-shirt. I mean, that kind of stuff. Right. So that to me was always something that was really, really special. Always extra special when that particular Friday was actually Halloween. I mean, sometimes we were off by a day or so, but man, when the actual day is Halloween, I'm sure my teachers hated it because it's like this day is a complete waste of time. But Man, I'll tell you what, it's all about just, leaning in and being a little bit of a kid and just enjoying being with kids. And you can do that with high school kids just as much as you can with elementary school kids or with middle school kids. So excellent, excellent stuff today, guys. Really appreciate the conversation with you. Appreciate all the insights. I know that our listening audience has taken away so many amazing things. So just really quick, quick 15-second, what's your final thought to send this away? Dom, I'll come to you.
No, I just think, it's always great talking to you guys. And, I think as we head into October, just like you said, Darrin, you could not have said it better. Lean into being a kid, have some fun, just be you. Go back to when things were easy.
I'd say keep the main thing. Be true to yourself and never jeopardize family time because you'll never get that time back.
Excellent, excellent stuff right there. All right, ladies, gentlemen, thank you so much for joining us here on the Leaning Into Leadership podcast. My final thought for you is just be clear, be intentional, and you got this. Get out there, have a road to awesome rest of your week, folks.